find a seat. In case you don't know, I'm Jean Parker and I'm Chairman of Lyme Parish Council. And today we have speakers from Surrey County Council, helynclack, and Dave Johnson and Jean Pearson from Mull Valley. And Helen's going to start off.
First of all, Jean and Lyme Parish Council, thank you so much for organising this meeting this afternoon. I think it's a really great idea to get people together to discuss issues that are happening nationally and therefore happening locally, and to come up with some ideas of how perhaps we can take this forward. It's a very, very interesting and challenging time for all of us at the moment. So thank you very much for arranging this, and Harriet and all the rest of the wonderful Lyme Parish Council. And I'm so delighted to see so many people here, including many people from other villages in the area. Other parish councils have come along to join us this afternoon. And that's really good, because it's a very, very pertinent debate that we're going to have this afternoon. And I'm going to give you a general overview of the localism bill. I hope you are prepared for that. I'll try and make it as understandable as possible. In fact, I've got the plain English guide here, which is a bit difficult to understand, but better than perhaps normal. So first of all, the localism bill, which has now been published just before Christmas by the coalition government, has perhaps turned up on end the way that we view local government and local authorities in England, and it's something that I know a lot of people have been asking for a very long time, to trim back regulation, to free up the powers of local authorities so that we can actually deliver what people want in our local communities. And of course in Surrey we've got three tiers of local authorities. We've got the county council, we've got the districts and the boroughs, and we've got the parish councils. And those three local authority tiers have all got one thing in common, and that is they are directly accountable to the government, and they must obey the law of the land. And that makes them equal. Apart from the size of their precepts, that is their equality. And the localism bill is going to be a huge event. It's going through Parliament at the moment, and it will turn up on end, as I said, some of the ways that we've looked at local authorities in the past. So I'm just going to go over a few basic things that it's looking to change. And the first rule is the powers of competence that as currently local authorities have. At the moment, local authorities are told what to do by central government generally, and they have to do that work. And if they wanted to do something slightly different, innovative or new, generally speaking, they would be very wary of doing that in case they were challenged in the courts. So in other words, they tend to stick to what's laid down by government to do what they are told to deliver. But in the future, they can take the powers of competency and work together to deliver services and things that the people want in a different way, locally and differently. And that's really, really very exciting, without worrying about whether or not they are going to be challenged. The one thing they can't do, obviously, is break the law, and they can't impose new laws like imposing new taxation. That's good, isn't it? Otherwise we could have a real problem there. Now, the people that stand as councillors on all these three local authorities are very important people, because they're the people that you elect or appoint to represent your views from your communities on these authorities. They're not there to represent the views of the authorities or the government, they're there to represent your views on that local authority. And they're very, very important people. And up until now, their role has sometimes been compromised by the rules around predetermination, and this is a very important factor that's changing as well within the localism bill. If you were campaigning, as I did for example, and as Jean has done, against an incinerator in Capel, and you will all remember that one, we always had to be very, very careful how we put our views to our local councils in case we were accused of predetermining the outcome. And so we had to be fairly sort of held back and just listen to people and develop those views. Now that will no longer happen. You will be able to campaign on the views that your local community is telling you to campaign on, and be able to speak at full council. And the reason that this is changing is because there's going to be a change in rules around standards boards. It will become available to each authority whether they want a standard board or not for their councillors. Basically, the opportunity will be to abolish them, and that councils will be held to account purely by criminal law. In other words, there will be no misunderstandings or misabuse of taking councillors, holding them to account for fairly spurious reasons that's happened over the last few years. They will either be within the law or without the law in what they do, like every other citizen in this country. And you know, up their behaviour, if they misbehave, they will go to court and they will be prosecuted about that. Now, when we get down to parish councils, this is the really exciting changes that are the opportunities that are coming to parish councils. Currently, both the county council and the district council are being told by government that if they raise their precept, that's their council tax, or if they freeze their council tax this year, the government will give them 2.5% funding in addition to freezing it. Now, if you turn that on its head, if we did raise our council tax, that would therefore be a fine, because we'd lose 2.5%. So in other words, our council tax is frozen. But that doesn't apply to parish councils. Parish councils continue to have the right to raise the precept that they think they should raise to deliver the services that they want in their locality. And this is quite an exciting time of change. I mean, we know that parish councils have been extremely good in maintaining a low precept across the whole of the rural area. But they also have quite often found that they would like to deliver services that are not being delivered by the county and not being delivered by the district. And now they will have the opportunity to consult their local communities as to whether or not they want to have those services delivered by themselves. The other sort of rights that parish councils will have, they will have the right to set up even lower councils than themselves, accountable to them neighbourhood forums. I'm not sure how much this is going to be relevant to the 9 parish councils in my division, because you're already actually fairly local as parish councils. There are, I know, 1 or 2 smaller resident associations covering parts of different villages, but in total the parishes are fairly small individually. And from my point of view, you know, I think that the power of parish councils down here is going to be about working together and collectively being able to use the power that they can wield collectively, rather than actually much more diminution further down. They are offering local referendums, whereby I suppose you might take an example of the village deciding to have a local referendum about delivering new housing, for example. There may be people who want to have that and people who don't. But you know, that would be quite an extreme thing to do. We would hope the parish council would manage that. They can also have the right to vote excessive council tax rises. I'm not quite sure what the proportion is to vote against an excessive council tax rise in Surrey. And I'm not sure what the proportions are locally, but there'll probably be quite a few. Maybe somebody else can fill that one in. There are lots of issues about planning, which Jean's going to cover, so I won't go into those too much. What else is there? I mean, the main aim of the bill is to put the power of decision making, both planning and service requirements, fairly and squarely in the hands of local people, and to make sure that people that are elected to local authorities, including parish councils and the district and Surrey, have the right to decide what's best for themselves. So I'm sure I've had more than 10 minutes, so I'm sure I'll hand over back to you, Jean.